My name is Kim Harbur. I'm with Gift of Life. We are a nonprofit in Kansas City. And today's presentation is about organ, eye, and tissue donation. I'm not here to persuade you or convince you to be an organ donor. I'm here to bring you the right information about the topic so you can decide for yourself what is the right decision for you. And so today is about good information so you can make the right decision. When you get a driver's license, you are asked the question, do you want to be a donor? Either when you get a driver's license or a state ID. And you're going to be asked that question, and you're going to answer it either yes or no, or you may also think, I don't know, I'm undecided. And sometimes people say yes to organ donation because they want to do something for others after they pass away or after they die. Some people say no to organ donation because it's kind of an uncomfortable concept of taking your organs out of your body and giving them to someone who needs that organ transplant. And some individuals are undecided. There's part of it they're okay with and part of it they're not okay with. Today is all about seeking what is the right answer for you. So I'm going to give you some good information so at the end of the presentation you can make an informed decision. So this is what physically can be donated when someone passes away. We have organs that we refer to as life-saving. We have tissue that we refer to as life-enhancing. Organs would include heart, kidneys, liver, lungs, pancreas, and the small intestine. On the tissue side, we have heart valves. The heart valve regulates blood flow. Cornea, the cornea is that clear covering over the front of your eye. Sometimes they can get scratched or damaged to the point that they need to be replaced. A cornea is very much like a contact lens, and it regulates light in and out of your eye. Bones. Bones are used for someone who maybe would have a type of bone cancer that is isolated in one area of their body, and the bone could be replaced so they could continue living. Skin benefits a severe burn patient. If someone is burned 40% of their body because they're trapped in a car fire, and they have third-degree burns, which is pretty deep in the layers of skin, they're going to need skin to be placed on top of their burns so their body can begin the healing process. When someone dies and they donate their skin, they remove skin from the back torso of the deceased donor only, just the back torso area. And it's a very thin layer that is removed. It's about the thickness of a paper towel. Ligaments and tendons are used in sport-related injuries. Bone marrow and blood is really important, but you do have to be allowed to donate either bone marrow and or blood, and blood vessels are used for heart surgeries. So when we look at Arrowhead Stadium, which, gosh, it doesn't look like it this year. I know the first game was not too long ago, but we would like to see it look like this, wouldn't we? And Kauffman Stadium, when those two stadiums are filled up with people, that is about 120,000 people when you look at these two pictures. This is how many people are waiting in the United States for a life-saving organ transplant. And they're waiting because we don't have enough donors to meet the high demand of transplant. Because the donor organ, the organ from someone who dies, has to match the person who is receiving that organ. So it has to be the right blood type, the right size, the right age. It does not have to be matched uh, for the same gender, and it does not have to be matched to the same race. A lot of times people think it has to be the same gender and same race, and it does not. So these are commonly asked questions about organ donation. Anyone can be a potential donor regardless of age, race, or medical history. Most religions support organ donation as a final act of love and generosity. The donor's body is always treated with respect and dignity. I think there's a fear that organ donation, when someone dies in a hospital setting, that they're not going to be respected as an organ donor by the medical community, and they are highly respected. There's no cost to the donor family to have their organs of their loved one donated. So when someone dies in a hospital, they're going to go to an operating room to have the organs removed from the donor's body, and that's at no cost to the donor family. Now, certainly there's cost to the recipient, the transplant recipient, that person who's receiving that transplant, but there is no cost once a family has made the decision for their loved one to donate. An open casket is possible for organ donation. A lot of times, communities think that organ donation is not possible if someone wants an open casket, but the body is prepared in a very special way so that organs can be donated, and then that individual can have an open casket, or the family can have an open casket for their loved one. It is against the law to buy and sell organs and tissue. It's illegal to do that. So there are a lot of rules and laws and policies and procedures around the process of organ donation. There are three types of organ donors: the living donor, the deceased donor, and then what we call a DCD donor, donation after circulatory death. So a living donor would be an individual that volunteers to donate a kidney, part of their liver, or part of a lung to a loved one. And certainly we know bone marrow and blood, you would volunteer to do that as well. Most of the time, someone will volunteer for organ donation as a living donor to someone they know. Maybe they care a lot about, it's a good friend, or maybe someone that they're related to. We can live with only one kidney. We have two kidneys. They are in the lower part of our back. They're in the back side of our body, under our rib cage, and we can function perfectly fine with one healthy kidney. So someone can donate a kidney and live a full, healthy life after that. We can also donate a lobe of our liver. Our liver has two lobes. We can keep a lobe, and we can give a lobe to someone we care about. And then our liver would grow back within 2 to 9 weeks' time. It is the only organ in our body that can regrow or regenerate. And we can donate part of a lung, or a lung as a living donor as well. Those are extremely rare types of transplants, but they are possible to do. The deceased donor is the most common donor. This is someone who maybe has been in a car accident, they're taken to the hospital, they're placed on life support where they have the machines and the monitors in hopes that their life will be saved. And in some cases, lives are saved, and individuals are removed from the life support machine and they go home. But sometimes what can happen is when someone's on life support, they might eventually lose their brain activity. And when we have no brain activity, we have no way to think or function. And that is referred to as brain death. So when a doctor determines that a patient is brain dead, if their body is healthy, they are in a position to be an organ donor, and we refer to that as a deceased donor. The last donor gets a little tricky. This is when someone's in the hospital, they're on life support, but doctors have determined that there's not going to be a meaningful recovery, no quality of life recovery. And families sometimes make the decision to remove their loved one from the machine. And what happens in that case is then the patient's heart will stop, usually pretty quickly it will stop, and then they're deceased, and then they would be in a position to donate some organs and some tissue. Now, families have the right to leave their loved one on the machine, but they also have the right to make the decision to remove their loved one from the machine. So this is a conversation that eventually you need to have with a family member, that if a situation was ever so in your family that a family member needed to know your wishes about remaining on the breathing machine or not, this is a conversation you need to eventually discuss and have with your family. One organ donor has the potential to save up to 8 lives, and one tissue donor has the potential to enhance up to 75 lives through tissue donation. So this brings you to my story. If you don't recognize me, I'm in the top picture there. This is my husband, Nate, my older son, Cole. He was a little over 2 there, and then our son, Luke. And Luke received a life-saving liver transplant at the age of 11 months old. This picture was taken about a few weeks after our transplant. You can see a big scar all the way across his belly where they took out his old liver and they put in a new one. The little boy at the bottom of the screen is Aaron, and Aaron is Luke's organ donor. Aaron died at the age of 8. He was on a camping trip on a family vacation in the Lake of the Ozarks, and he was having a hard time breathing. They were at a campsite. And what had happened to him is he had an allergic reaction. Now, oftentimes allergic reactions are from a bee sting or a food allergy. In this particular story, they never determined what caused the allergic reaction. They took him to the nearest hospital. He was placed on life support, and about 3 days later, he lost his brain activity. And when he died, his mother and father made the decision on his behalf for him to be an organ donor. And our son Luke is alive today because Aaron's family, in their darkest time, said yes to organ donation. And it's very hard to explain to you what that feels like from my perspective. Luke was diagnosed at 5 months old that he needed a liver transplant or he would only live 2 years. So our only hope for him to survive was a liver transplant. And we are so grateful and will be forever grateful to the Drake family. During their darkest time when they lost their child, they found the strength to say yes to organ donation. So what are the steps for organ donation and recovery? So in Aaron's story, they were at a hospital in Springfield, Missouri, because they were on vacation in the Lake of the Ozarks, but they lived in Olathe, Kansas, which is several hours away. So he went into the operating room and they removed his organs that were going to be donated and his tissue that were going to be donated. And when they go to the operating room, the donors remain on the breathing machine because the breathing machine is giving the body oxygen in order for those organs to stay viable for transplant. During the process of organ donation, family members want to say goodbye to their loved one. So they're on the breathing machine, keeping the organs viable until the family members have said their final goodbyes, and then the donor is transported into the operating room. There is one incision from the sternum to the belly button for organ donation. The organs are removed from the donor's body and they are put in a cooler. And those coolers have a special, it's called sterile slush. It looks like a slushy. It's a special kind of ice, and they put that organ in a plastic bag and they set it on that ice to keep it at a certain temperature while it's transporting over to where the recipient is. Organs can be flown by a helicopter, a jet. Sometimes they're transported, if it's a short distance, they'll be transported in an ambulance, but they can only be outside of the donor's body 4 to 48 hours. So once the organ is removed from a donor's body, the process of transporting it over to where the recipient is has to be just like clockwork. And there's a lot of time frames that everyone's working against and a lot of phone calls that are being made. And it's a very critical part and a critical piece of the donor process. So do you want to be a donor? You can register at giftdonor.org, which is our website, and click on Participate, Become an Organ Donor, and then click on the state that you live in, and that will tell you how to register. If you're interested in becoming a bone marrow donor, you can go to bethematch.org and sign up to do that as well. But when someone is 17 years of age or younger and they die and they can be a donor, the final decision for them to be a donor will be left up to a parent or a guardian. Once someone turns 18, the law is very different. So if someone is 18 or older, so in my case, I'm obviously over the age of 18 and I have it on my driver's license that I want to be a donor. When I die, if I can donate, my family has to honor my wish because it's on my driver's license. Now, let's say I would have said, I don't want to be an organ donor. And when I die, I could physically be an organ donor. Then the decision will go back to someone in my family to make that decision on my behalf. So here is Luke and Cole today. This is Cole on the right. He is now 25. And this is Luke on the left. He's now 24. They're both college graduates, and they both live and work here in Kansas City. And they have turned out to be terrific young men. And we're so grateful for the Drake family for Luke's gift so that Cole has a brother. So organ and tissue donation, sharing your decision is really my message to you today. This is the most important step to organ, eye, and tissue donation. Letting your wishes be known, let your loved one know what you want so that only if they need that information, you are informed accordingly. Now, you may listen to all of this and think to yourself, I'm kind of on the fence. I don't know what I want to do. And that's okay too. Having that conversation and maybe going home and sharing that you watched this video today and that you learned about organ donation and you want to talk to them about what you're thinking. And if you all walk away that you don't know, that's okay too. Because just collecting the right information and then siphoning through that and what speaks to your heart, what is the best decision for you, is really what today is all about. So without the organ donor, there is no story, no hope, no transplant. But when there is an organ donor, life springs from death, sorrow turns to hope, and a terrible loss becomes a gift. If you need more information, you can certainly visit our website, which is giftdonor.org, We have some wonderful information on there, as well as some fabulous videos just about personal stories of organ, eye, and tissue donation, and I think you would really enjoy that. So I thank you for having me today. Thanks for turning on your computer and hopping on with me today. I appreciate it, and I hope that you've learned something about organ, eye, and tissue donation. Thank you so much.